Hey all you action figure enthusiasts out there, JC here with another T&I toy review. And for today's review, I'm going to be taking a look at the second wave of new 7-inch DC Essential figures from DC Collectibles. Now this second wave is going to include figures of Brainiac, Black Manta, Aquaman, and Superman. Now I looked at the Superman figure about a week and a half ago in a Toy Talk video. I am going to be looking at this figure additionally in this video, but if you want a more in-depth look, I will put a link to that original review in the video description. But all four figures come in a similar style of packaging. You've got the window boxes. I don't have Superman's packaging, but really the main difference is Superman's box was blue, Brainiac's box is green, Black Manta's box is black, and Aquaman's box is orange. You've got the names of the characters up at the top. You've got the 20th anniversary in gold foil up there at the top as well. On the very tops of the packaging, you've got the character symbols. So you've got Aquaman's trident symbol, Black Manta's face, and then those 3 dots for Brainiac. Superman, of course, had his shield, his S shield. And then you've also got the DC Collectible logo down below. Tells us that Brainiac is figure number 6 in the series, Black Manta is figure number 8, and Aquaman is figure number 7. Superman was figure number 5. On the sides of the packaging, you just got images of the figures. And again, you have the numbering and everything. And then on the back of the packaging, you have additional images of the figures and then brief bios in multiple languages. Down below, it shows you all the figures in the second wave. And then at the very bottom, it tells us that the figures were sculpted by Paul Harding. All right, let's get these open and take a look at what's inside. Okay, so here's a look at the figures outside of the packaging along with their other contents. Now, first of all, let me just say a big thanks to the folks at DC Collectibles for sending me these figures so I could review them for you guys. All 4 of these figures are slated to start hitting comic and specialty shops starting this coming Wednesday. Now, the only 2 figures in the second wave that come with any actual accessories are Aquaman and Black Manta. Brainiac and Superman do not have any accessories at all. Okay, so for Aquaman, he comes with his trident, and this is done with just a gold plastic, so very similar to other tridents we've seen for Aquaman. This is the one that came with the Icons figure. So this new one is a little bit thicker, has a little knob here at the end of the handle, and then you've got the points. It's a pretty hard plastic, but a little bit flexible. Not a whole lot of paint detail, again done with just a kind of a gold plastic, but I do like the detailing, like here where it kind of extends out a little bit here on the handle, and so it looks very much like something you would see Aquaman have in the comic books. Now Aquaman will only hold the trident in his left hand. The right hand is closed fisted, so he can only hold it in the one hand. And you can see the trident isn't quite as tall as the actual figure, which I actually think is good. Sometimes we see these tridents where they're as tall or even taller than the figure, but I think the size of it is really good for this particular figure. Now for Black Manta, he comes with his signature weapon, so you get 2 swords that actually fit into the backpack. They just kind of slide down in there, and they fit pretty good. You got to make sure they're pointed the right way or they won't fit in there, but they fit in there pretty good. Now he's also got this bladed weapon which sits in there pretty loosely, so if you turn him upside down, that one will fall out, but the swords do stay in there pretty good. And they're done with a metallic type silver plastic. You've got some sculpting detail on the handles, and then again done with a somewhat flexible but hard plastic. And then, like I said, he also has that bladed weapon that you see him use, done with the same kind of metallic silver plastic. You've got some sculpting detail on the handle. Looks pretty good overall. He's got the hoses. He's got the backpack piece, which is attached, doesn't come off the figure. And of course, you've got the hoses that go from the backpack to his helmet. Now Black Manta has 2 grip hands, so he can either hold both swords or you can put that bladed weapon in either hand. And he does hold the weapons pretty tight. Okay, now for the figures themselves. Now all 4 figures are incorporating that same basic body, muscular body that we saw in the first wave of figures, which I think works pretty well for all 4 of these characters, so no real complaint there. Now there are some minor differences on the figures themselves. All 4 head sculpts are obviously different, and I really like all 4 head sculpts. I think that's one of the most solid thing about the figures in this line are the head sculpts. If you caught my Superman video where I talked about that one, you know, this is still remains one of my favorite comic book based Superman head sculpts I've seen on a figure in a long time. He's got the classic curl and everything. Aquaman's is pretty good. I could have maybe used a little more paint detail in the hair. I don't know. But still, it's not bad. I like Black Manta's helmet. You've got the red eyes, the glossy red eyes with the metallic silver. And then he's got the red markings there around his neck. And I already looked at the backpack. Black Manta also has this gauntlet that's sculpted on the right arm. And I'll give you another look at the backpack with the weapons in it. So I really like that detailing. And with the hoses. The hoses are rubber material, so you do want to be careful when you're turning the head, not to turn it too much and pull those hoses out. They're not meant to be removed. And then Brainiac. Brainiac, again, I really like the head sculpt. These red markings on the top of his head are actually sculpted. So they're red with some metallic silver, and they're actually sculpted, not just painted. Now for the rest of the figure, it's pretty basic. The outfit is essentially just painted on there with a flat black. You've got some glossy black here around the arms, upper arms here, and at the midsection, and then you've got the white with the red markings, and all of that is painted on here. Brainiac has 2 closed fists, Black Manta has 2 grip hands, Aquaman has a closed fist for the right hand and a grip hand for the left hand, and then Superman has a closed fist for the right hand and an open hand on the left hand. And then for the feet, the boots, Black Manta and Brainiac seem to be sharing the same boots, same design. You've got the red markings with the metallic silver on Brainiac's boots. Black Manta's are just that glossy black. Aquaman's not wearing any boots at all, and then Superman's boots are a little bit different. Instead of the tips that point up like on Black Manta and Brainiac, you've got the basically goes down, the little divot goes down, and you also have the ridges sculpted on there. Superman, of course, is wearing the red trunks with this one, based on his outfit from Action Comics 1000. Has the yellow belt. They did not paint the loops red, which is not completely comic book accurate. In the comics, the loops are red, so that is a little minor error. And then he's got the little ridges around his wrists, which kind of is a leftover from the New 52 costume, but that is in keeping with the comics. And then he's got the cape, which is done with the vinyl material. I like how the cape hangs. I think it's a good length. It's just red. There's no S symbol or anything on this version of Superman with the cape, but overall I think it looks good. Okay, now all 4 figures are pretty close to the same height since they use that same body. Black Manta is maybe a hair taller than the others because of his helmet. He comes up right at 7 inches, I would say, and then the others are just a hair under 7 inches. But again, height-wise, they're all pretty similar. Okay, now for comparisons, first I want to give you a look at some various Aquaman figures. Now, one of the things I hear a lot of people say when we start talking about this DC Essential line is, wondering why DC Collectibles went to this larger scale. And one of the complaints I see used against it is saying that no other action figure line is in this scale. And that's just not the case. I think what those people mean to say is, why aren't they in scale with Marvel Legends or maybe even DC Multiverse figures? They are not 6-inch figures, they're more in keeping with 7-inch figures, which in fact is the scale that DC Collectibles and the older version DC Direct did far more of than the more recent icons. So basically these new figures are in scale with many of their older figures, as well as things like NECA 7-inch figures and such. So plenty of companies out there that do 7-inch scale figures, and so I don't really view it as a big deal that they've gone back to this larger scale. So I just want to give you a comparison. So this is DC Collectibles icon figure, and you can see it's the smallest of the bunch. And then we have Mattel's Multiverse Aquaman figure. This is the more recent one that they did as a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. So you can see that one is taller than the Icons figure and is a little bit shorter than the new DC Essentials one. This middle one here is the DC Essentials, and then we've got 2 older DC collectible figures, which you can see are very similar scales. So the difference between these 3 is really this one has better articulation and even would say a little better detailing, though these 2 had pretty nice detailing as well. But the big difference and why this is an improvement over the older DC collectible figures is you get better articulation with this new one. Okay, now with Black Manta, so again we've got a 6-inch scale DC Multiverse figure from Mattel. This is the most recent Black Manta that they did as a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. And I really love the eye. Every every time I see this figure. I love the eyes. I love what they did with the eyes on this one with the translucent plastic and the removable lenses. But otherwise, I think this figure is more detailed, has an overall nicer look to it. And then you've got an older DC Collectible figure, which you can see the scale is pretty much the same. And then I threw in this Atlantean dude as well from DC Collectibles, which again is 7-inch scale. So definitely plenty of figures out there, especially if you're a DC fan, older figures out there that you can pose with these new ones. Now here's the new Superman figure, and just to give you some comparisons, so again we've got the older Icon Superman here, which is the smallest of the bunch. Then we have a Hasbro Marvel Legend Deadpool figure, and then we have a Hasbro Marvel Legend Cable figure, which is a bigger character, uses a bigger body, and you can see Cable's actually a hair taller than Superman. And then again, to give you a comparison with an older DC Collectible DC figure, here's the Simon Baz Green Lantern figure. Really great figure, not super articulated, but scale wise you can see the two are pretty close. Now here's a comparison of the new DC Essentials Aquaman and DC Essentials Black Manta figure with the Mattel Collect and Connect King Shark figure. And because this is a Collect and Connect, it is a bigger figure, but I actually think it works pretty well with these Essentials. Okay, and then real quick, just to give you a comparison with two more 6-inch figures. So we've got a modern Jim Lee Cyclops from Hasbro's Marvel Legend line. This is a basic body in the Marvel Legend line, and you can see it's the shortest of the three. And then we have a new DC Multiverse 6-inch Superman, New 52 Superman from Mattel. It is taller than the Marvel Legend, but not quite as tall as the DC Collectibles DC Essentials Superman figure. Here's a comparison of the 4 DC heroes that have been released so far in the Essentials line. So we've got Flash from the first wave, along with Batman, who was also released in the first wave, and then the new Superman and Aquaman figures. And then here are the villains. So we've got Reverse Flash from the first wave, Black Manta and Brainiac from the second wave, and then also Deathstroke, who was released in the first wave. And then finally, here's a look at all 8 DC Essential figures that have been released up until this point. Okay, now articulation on these figures is pretty much the same across the board. A little bit different movement with the heads on some of them, but for the most part they're pretty much the same. So with Aquaman, he can turn his head to the left and to the right good. They're on ball hinge joints, so he can look down good, and then he can look up about that much. You get a little bit of head pivot with these, but not a whole lot. And then with the arms, you can get the arm out about that much. You've got good rotation there at the shoulder. You've got a bicep swivel. You've got a double hinged elbow, so good bending there. And then you've got rotation with the hands. And then you have the hinges on the hands, so you have up and down movement there. You get an ab crunch joint, so you can crunch forward about that much, and then you can crunch back or look back about that much there at the midsection. You also get a waist swivel, which is nice. With the legs, you can do the splits good. You can get the leg forward pretty good, and you can do the leg out and back. Now with these figures, you do get thigh swivels, which is nice. You get double hinged knees, so good bending there. You get a boot cuff swivel, and then you have hinges, so up and down movement, and you do have ankle pivot and rotation there as well. Now with these figures, you do not get any peg holes on the bottom of the feet. I talked about this in my Toy Talk video with the Superman figure, but one of the things I like about this figure is how you can get the head back for flight poses. You know, that's really something that's nice for a Superman figure, which in a lot of cases is actually missing, so you can actually get him in decent flight poses with this one. Black Manta has the least movement with the head, so again, you want to be careful with these hoses. You don't want to turn the head too much. I mean, you can still turn it pretty good without worrying about pulling those hoses, but you don't want to like rotate it all the way around because those hoses are attached to the helmet. Now he really can't look back very much, so that's a little disappointing, but with this big giant helmet, there's probably not much way around that. And then he can look down a little bit, but not too much. And then you can just, like I said, turn the head and you can pivot. He actually has pretty good pivot with this one. So, but again, his back and forth movement is the most limited out of the 4 figures. One thing I want to point out on the Superman figure is with the joints here. The joints here at the ankle are actually separate pieces than the rest of the foot. Now with most of the figures, they don't stand out that much, but like on the Superman figure, and I've talked about this before, but because it's a darker red color and the boots themselves are that glossy red, it does kind of stand out a little bit, almost looks like he's wearing socks. So that's my only minor complaint as far as paint applications go on this figure, is how that ankle joint is at such a darker red color than the rest of the boot. Okay, so that's my review. So overall, I would say that this is a pretty solid wave of figures. Now, they're not perfect. There are some minor problems, like Superman's belt loops not being painted. That seems to me like something they should have caught. They do incorporate the same body overall, but that doesn't really bother me since it works well with these characters. If they start using the same body for smaller scale characters, like say Robin or somebody, then I would have an issue. But with these guys, I think they work pretty well. As far as accessories, you get the basic accessories with the characters that really need it. Would it be great if we got more accessories? Sure, but I do understand for cost reasons why they're keeping those limited. And again, we are getting the basic accessories with the characters that really need it, like Black Manta and Aquaman with his trident. And overall, I would say just the look of these figures is really nice. They fit in great with older DC collectible figures and other 7-inch scale lines. They're not meant to go with your Marvel Legends with 6-inch scale figures, DC Multiverse. If you're a Marvel Legend collector looking for DC figures, then I would say stick with Mattel's Multiverse. But if you're just looking for a good solid looking DC line in general, then I think this is worth checking out. Now, the first wave has been out for a while, and the second wave is going to start hitting comic and specialty shops this coming Wednesday. We'll have a full image gallery up at toynewseye.com. There'll be a link in the video description below. As always, leave a comment, let me know what you think. If you're so inclined, please like the video, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel by hitting that button down below. You should also hit the bell notification so you're alerted every time I upload a new video. And of course, you can also follow me on my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram accounts. I have links to all those in the video description as well. And until next time, guys, I'll catch you later.